Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving into the work of Dr. Daniel Amen. He's a pretty renowned, I guess you could say, clinical neuroscientist and psychiatrist,
Yeah.
and he's made a career out of emphasizing brain health. And it looks like you guys have sent us some really interesting material from him,
Yeah.
including excerpts from his book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, and details about his 12-step Amen Clinics program.
Right.
It seems like you're all really interested in how the brain affects, well, everything,
It really does.
from our everyday behavior to our long-term health and well-being.
What I find so intriguing about his approach is that he combines, that hard science with really relatable anecdotes and practical advice.
Right.
He uses patient stories and brain imaging to make these complex workings of the brain, tangible, less intimidating.
It's refreshing to see a medical professional who's not just talking at us with jargon, but actually trying to empower people with knowledge. He seems to be saying, look, understanding your brain isn't just for academics. It's the key to living a better life.
Totally.
And he really drives home the point that we can actually change our brains for the better.
That's a key takeaway here. Dr. Amen starts from the premise that the brain is involved in everything we do, our thoughts, emotions, behaviors, even our physical health.
Right.
And he emphasizes that this incredible organ with its billions of neurons and trillions of connections isn't static.
Wow.
It's constantly adapting and changing in response to our experiences.
It's mind-boggling to think about the sheer complexity of the brain.
It is.
But also incredibly empowering to realize we have the power to influence its development.
For sure.
But how do we actually see what's going on in there? That's where Dr. Amen's emphasis on brain imaging, particularly SPECT scans, comes in.
Right. Dr. Amen is a huge advocate for SPECT scans, which he argues provides more detailed and functional view of the brain compared to traditional imaging techniques. He describes it as being able to see under the hood of your brain, identifying areas of activity and potential dysfunction that might not be visible through other methods.
I'll admit, I was a little skeptical about SPECT scans at first, but the way he describes it, it's like comparing a simple X-ray to a high-definition 3D model of your brain.
Yeah.
You're getting a much richer picture of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
He even shares his own yuck moment when he first saw his own SPECT scan,
Oh, interesting.
realizing that even he, a brain health expert, had areas that needed attention.
It's humbling.
It is.
That personal story makes the science so much more relatable. It underscores the point that we all have room for improvement when it comes to brain health. And it's not just about anecdotes. Dr. Amen claims that SPECT scans have changed the diagnosis or treatment for a staggering 80% of his patients.
80%. That's a powerful statistic that speaks to the potential of this technology to really make a difference in people's lives. It makes you wonder how many people are struggling with undiagnosed or misdiagnosed brain-related issues. Like, is this something that we should all be doing?
And to further assess overall well-being, Dr. Amen uses a framework he calls the 4 circles of brain health.
Okay, let's break those down for our listener.
Sure.
We have biological, psychological, social, and spiritual.
Right.
So it's not just about what's happening physically in the brain, but also how our thoughts, relationships, and even our sense of purpose contribute to a healthy brain.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach that recognizes the interconnectedness of our lives and how all these factors impact our brain function. It's a refreshing departure from the reductionist view that often dominates medicine.
I love that he emphasizes this interconnectedness. It takes the pressure off the idea that brain health is solely determined by genetics or brain chemistry,
Yeah.
and puts the power back in our hands to make positive changes in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. Now, to delve deeper into how these circles interact, Dr. Amen explores 5 major brain systems: the limbic system, the basal ganglia, the prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate gyrus, and the temporal lobes.
This is where it gets really fascinating. He doesn't just list these systems, he dives into their functions, what happens when they're not working optimally, and how their imbalances can manifest in everyday life. He even shares vivid patient stories to illustrate how these brain systems can impact real people in profound ways.
One of the most impactful examples is the story of Willie, a man struggling with uncontrolled anger.
Yeah, I remember Willie.
Dr. Amen discovered a temporal lobe abnormality through a SPECT scan that explained Willie's outbursts. With targeted treatment, Willie was able to regain control of his emotions and improve his quality of life.
That story highlights how crucial it is to look beyond surface-level symptoms and understand the underlying brain function. It reminds us that behaviors we might judge or misunderstand could actually stem from brain-based challenges.
And to help listeners understand their own brain function, Dr. Amen introduces the concept of brain types based on the activity levels of these 5 systems.
So he's suggesting there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to brain health.
Right.
Each person's brain is unique, and understanding your individual brain type can guide you toward the most effective strategies for optimization.
Exactly. For example, someone with an overactive limbic system might benefit from techniques that promote relaxation and emotional regulation,
Okay.
while someone with a weaker prefrontal cortex might need to focus on improving their executive function skills, like planning and organization.
This is such valuable insight for our listener. It underscores the importance of personalized approaches to brain health rather than relying on generic advice.
And to take it a step further, Dr. Amen's work suggests that understanding these brain types can be incredibly beneficial in the context of relationships.
Okay, this is where I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
In the next part of our deep dive, let's explore how these brain systems and their corresponding types can impact our interactions with others. I'm ready to learn how this knowledge can help us build stronger, healthier relationships.
Let's do it. Welcome back. So, as promised, let's explore how understanding brain types can help us understand the dynamics of our relationships.
Okay.
Dr. Amen suggests that recognizing these patterns in ourselves and our partners can be incredibly helpful in navigating the complexities of love, conflict, compatibility.
This is fascinating stuff. I think most of us can relate to the challenges of relationships, but to think that our brain wiring might actually be influencing how we interact with others is kind of mind-blowing.
It really is.
So where do we even begin? Where does he start with this?
He begins by looking at the limbic system, that emotional hub we discussed earlier.
Right.
He argues that when the limbic system is balanced, people tend to be more emotionally stable, empathetic, and capable of forming secure attachments.
Right.
They're generally more positive and resilient in the face of challenges, which are obviously desirable qualities in any relationship.
Absolutely. Emotional stability and resilience are so crucial for navigating the ups and downs of life together.
Right.
But what happens when the limbic system is out of balance?
Yeah.
How does that impact our relationships?
He suggests that an overactive limbic system can lead to heightened negativity, mood swings,
Okay.
and a tendency to perceive neutral events through a negative filter. These individuals might be more sensitive to criticism, have difficulty letting go of hurts, and even experience physical symptoms like headaches and digestive issues when stressed.
So it's like they're carrying around this extra emotional baggage that can make it harder to stay grounded and positive in relationships. It makes sense that this could lead to conflict and resentment over time.
Exactly. And on the flip side, an underactive limbic system can lead to emotional detachment, difficulty connecting with others, and even a lower sex drive.
Oh, wow.
These individuals might struggle to express affection or empathize with their partners, leading to feelings of distance and disconnect.
It's interesting how he presents these two extremes. Too much emotional intensity versus not enough. Both can create significant challenges in relationships.
For sure.
It seems like finding that balance is key.
That's a crucial insight.
Yeah.
And it underscores the importance of understanding our own brain patterns and those of our partners.
Right.
Dr. Amen then shifts his focus to the basal ganglia, the brain region involved in motivation, pleasure, and habit formation.
Oh.
He links the system to our anxiety levels and how we approach risk and reward.
The basal ganglia. We touched on that earlier when discussing addiction and procrastination.
Yes.
How does this system come into play in our relationships?
Well, he proposes that people with overactive basal ganglia tend to be more anxious and worry-prone in relationships.
Okay.
They might struggle with insecurity, jealousy, and a tendency to catastrophize or imagine the worst-case scenario.
So these are the folks who are always on high alert, anticipating problems and fearing rejection. That sounds exhausting for both partners.
It can be.
Yeah.
And this anxiety can manifest physically, leading to those headaches, stomach aches, and other stress-related symptoms we talked about,
Right.
further complicating the relationship dynamic.
It's a reminder that our mental and emotional states are deeply intertwined with our physical well-being.
Yes.
It's not just all in our heads, it's a whole body experience.
Perfectly. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, individuals with underactive basal ganglia might appear more relaxed and laid back, but they can also struggle with motivation and follow-through in relationships.
Interesting. So while they might be less prone to anxiety, they might also lack the drive or initiative to contribute fully to the relationship.
Exactly. They might struggle to keep promises, put in the effort to plan dates or outings, or maintain a consistent level of engagement, which can lead to feelings of neglect or frustration for their partners.
It seems like, again, it's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Too much anxiety can be stifling, but too little motivation can also lead to problems.
Absolutely. And Dr. Amen's work emphasizes that recognizing these patterns can be a first step toward addressing them, either through lifestyle changes, targeted therapy, or other interventions.
Okay.
Next, he moves on to the prefrontal cortex, often referred to as the CEO of the brain, which is responsible for executive functions like planning, organization, impulse control, and decision-making.
Oh, I can already see how this one is crucial for healthy relationships.
Yeah.
If you're lacking those executive function skills, it seems like it would be really difficult to be a reliable and supportive partner.
You're spot on. Dr. Amen suggests that people with weaker prefrontal cortex function might struggle with time management, organization, and follow-through, which can lead to frustration and conflict in relationships. They might be chronically late, forget important dates, or have trouble keeping commitments, creating a sense of unreliability and disrespect.
So it's not that they don't care. It's that their brains might not be wired for the kind of planning and organization that's essential for maintaining a smooth-running partnership.
Exactly. And their impulsivity might lead to poor communication, reckless decisions, or even infidelity, further damaging the relationship. Dr. Amen emphasizes that improving prefrontal cortex function is critical for creating stability and trust in relationships.
This is fascinating. It's like he's giving us a whole new language for understanding relationship dynamics.
Yes.
It's not just about personality clashes or compatibility issues. It's about recognizing these underlying brain patterns that can contribute to how we behave and interact with each other.
That's the power of Dr. Amen's approach.
Yeah.
He's not just diagnosing problems, he's offering insights and solutions. He's empowering people to take control of their brain health and, in turn, improve their relationships.
So we've covered the limbic system, basal ganglia, and prefrontal cortex. What about the other two brain systems he focuses on? The anterior cingulate gyrus and the temporal lobes. How do they factor into our relationships?
The anterior cingulate gyrus, or ACG, acts as the brain's gear shifter, helping us transition between thoughts and tasks.
Okay.
When it's functioning optimally, we can adapt to change, go with the flow, and handle surprises without getting stuck.
That flexibility sounds pretty important in relationships where things are constantly changing and unexpected challenges inevitably arise.
Exactly. But when the ACG is overactive,
Yeah?
Dr. Amen suggests it can lead to rigidity, inflexibility, and even oppositional behavior.
Okay.
These individuals might get stuck in negative thought patterns, hold grudges, and have trouble letting go of past hurts, even after their partner has apologized or tried to make amends.
So they're the ones who are always bringing up old arguments and can't seem to move past those past transgressions, even when everyone else has moved on.
You got it. They might also have a tendency to say no automatically, even when it's not in their best interest, leading to unnecessary conflict and tension. And this rigidity can spill over into other areas of their lives, creating a sense of control and predictability that can be challenging for those around them.
That sounds incredibly frustrating for both partners.
It can be.
It seems like it would be difficult to find common ground or reach compromises when one person is so stuck in their own way of thinking.
Absolutely. And finally, we have the temporal lobes, which play a vital role in memory, language processing, and emotional regulation. They also contribute to our understanding of nonverbal cues and our ability to connect with others on a deeper level.
The temporal lobes, we've heard a lot about them in the context of memory and learning.
Right.
How do they impact our relationships?
Well, Dr. Amen suggests that healthy temporal lobes are essential for clear communication, empathy, and the ability to pick up on subtle emotional cues.
Okay.
They help us understand not just what our partners are saying, but also how they're feeling, creating a deeper level of connection and understanding.
So it's not just about processing words, it's about tuning into the emotional undercurrent of the conversation.
Precisely. However, when the temporal lobes are not functioning optimally, it can lead to a range of issues that can strain relationships.
Okay.
Dr. Amen links temporal lobe dysfunction to irritability, anger, suspiciousness, and even paranoia.
Wow, that's a serious concern. Those kinds of issues could definitely sabotage a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like the trust and security that are essential for a healthy partnership are constantly being undermined.
Exactly. And problems in the temporal lobes can also lead to memory issues, difficulty understanding language, and misinterpretations of facial expressions and vocal tone.
Right.
This can lead to misunderstandings, hurt feelings, and a breakdown in communication.
So you might think your partner's being dismissive or angry when they're actually just having trouble processing what you're saying or how you're feeling. That could lead to a lot of unnecessary conflict.
Precisely. And temporal lobe issues can also contribute to anxiety, fear, and even a sense of detachment from reality, making it difficult to maintain stable and fulfilling relationships.
This is all so insightful, but I have to wonder, if someone recognizes these patterns in themselves or their partner, what can they do about it? Is it possible to change these brain patterns and improve the health of these systems?
That's the good news. Dr. Amen believes we are not stuck with the brain we have. We can make it better. He offers a range of solutions tailored to each brain system, including dietary changes, targeted supplements, neurofeedback training, and even medication in some cases. He truly believes we have the power to optimize our brains and, in turn, improve our lives.
That's encouraging to hear. It's not a hopeless situation. You can actually take steps to address these brain-based challenges and build stronger, healthier relationships. In the next part of our deep dive, let's explore some of those solutions and practical strategies that Dr. Amen recommends for improving brain health. So we've spent a lot of time exploring how these different brain systems can create relationship challenges. Now let's shift gears and talk about solutions. Does Dr. Amen offer any specific advice for navigating these issues? I mean, it seems like it would be incredibly helpful to understand these brain patterns, not just for ourselves, but also for our partners.
He absolutely does. In fact, he provides really specific recommendations for each brain system, both for individual and their partners.
Okay.
So for those struggling with limbic system imbalances, he emphasizes the importance of stress management techniques like deep breathing, meditation, and yoga.
Those sound like pretty solid strategies for calming, like an overactive emotional center. But what about those negative thought patterns that often accompany limbic system issues? Those persistent what-if worries, and self-critical thoughts. Those can be really tough to, break free from.
He advocates for what he calls ANT therapy,
Oh, right.
which stands for automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah.
It's a process of identifying and challenging those intrusive thoughts that can sabotage relationships.
Right. He mentioned ANTs
Hmm.
earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's about recognizing those little voices in our heads that tell us we're not good enough,
Hmm.
that our partner doesn't really love us, or that the relationship is doomed.
Exactly. And he encourages people to actually talk back to those ANTs, challenge their validity, and replace them with more positive, realistic thoughts. This involves examining the evidence, considering alternative perspectives, and focusing on the good aspects of the relationship rather than dwelling on the negative.
It's like retraining your brain to look for the positives, instead of always defaulting to the negative. That seems like a valuable skill for anyone, not just those with limbic system issues. It's about cultivating a more optimistic and resilient mindset.
Absolutely. And for those with overactive basal ganglia, leading to anxiety and fear in relationships, Dr. Amen again emphasizes stress reduction techniques, along with cognitive behavioral therapy, to address those worry-prone thought patterns. CBT can help individuals identify the triggers that set off their anxiety and develop coping mechanisms to manage those feelings more effectively.
So it's a two-pronged approach: calming the nervous system through relaxation techniques, and then challenging those irrational fears and anxieties through cognitive reframing.
Precisely. He also suggests exploring potential underlying medical conditions like thyroid imbalances or hormonal fluctuations, which can contribute to anxiety. It's always a good idea to rule out any physical factors that might be exacerbating the emotional distress.
That's a good reminder that sometimes these emotional and mental issues have a physical root cause that needs to be addressed. It's about taking a holistic view of our well-being and recognizing the interconnectedness of our physical and mental health.
Now, for those dealing with prefrontal cortex weaknesses, Dr. Amen's advice focuses on improving executive function skills like planning, organization, and impulse control.
Right.
He recommends things like creating structured routines, using visual reminders, and breaking down tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
So it's about creating external support systems to compensate for those internal breaks that might be missing. It's like building scaffolding around those weaker areas to provide, structure and support.
Exactly. He also suggests seeking professional help from a therapist or coach who specializes in executive function skills training. These professionals can provide personalized strategies and tools to help individuals improve their focus, organization, and time management skills.
It sounds like a lot of these strategies are about creating structure and support, both internally and externally. It makes sense given that these are the areas where people with prefrontal cortex issues often struggle.
Absolutely. Now, for those dealing with an overactive anterior cingulate gyrus, that tendency to get stuck and be oppositional, Dr. Ammon emphasizes the importance of flexibility and compromise in relationships.
That's easier said than done,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you're like wired for rigidity. But how do you actually change those like deeply ingrained patterns?
He encourages practicing mindfulness techniques to become more aware of those stuck thoughts and behaviors. By paying attention to their internal experience, individuals can start to notice those patterns and develop the ability to choose a different response.
So it's about cultivating that space between stimulus and response, that pause where you can consciously decide how you want to react rather than just automatically defaulting to your like habitual patterns.
Exactly. He also suggests using humor to diffuse tension and learning to reframe situations to see multiple perspectives. This involves stepping back from the immediate situation and trying to understand the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it.
So it's about finding ways to loosen that grip on needing to be right all the time and being more open to other points of view. It's about cultivating curiosity and empathy rather than digging in your heels and defending your position at all costs.
Precisely. He also emphasizes the importance of clear communication, setting realistic expectations, and choosing partners who are naturally more flexible and adaptable. It's about finding a good fit in terms of personality and communication styles.
That last one makes a lot of sense. If you know you're prone to rigidity, it's probably wise to avoid a partner who shares that same tendency. It's about recognizing your strengths and weaknesses and finding someone who complements you rather than amplifies your challenges.
Exactly. And finally, for those with temporal lobe issues, Dr. Amen's advice centers around creating a calming, predictable environment and avoiding overstimulation. He also suggests seeking professional help to address any underlying medical conditions like seizures or hormonal imbalances that could be contributing to the symptoms.
So it's about reducing stress
Yeah.
and creating a sense of safety and stability, which makes sense given the temporal lobe's role in memory, language, and emotional regulation. It's about minimizing those triggers that can lead to overwhelm and dysregulation.
Absolutely. And he also emphasizes the importance of patience and understanding from partners, as those with temporal lobe issues might need more time to process information and respond appropriately. It's about recognizing that their brain might be working differently and adjusting your expectations and communication style accordingly.
This entire discussion has been so incredibly insightful. It's like he's giving us a whole new lens for understanding ourselves and our relationships. It's not about blaming or judging. It's about recognizing those underlying brain-based patterns that can contribute to conflict and disconnection.
It really highlights how understanding brain health can transform our lives, not just in terms of our own well-being, but also in our interactions with others. It's about recognizing that we all have strengths and weaknesses, and by understanding our own brains and those of our partners, we can build more compassionate, supportive, and fulfilling relationships.
So what's the takeaway message for our listener? What do we hope they'll walk away with from this deep dive into Dr. Amen's work?
I think the most powerful message is one of hope.
Yeah.
Dr. Amen's work tells us that we are not defined by our brain patterns. We can change, adapt, and improve our brain health, which in turn can transform our relationships and our lives.
It's a reminder that knowledge is power. The more we understand about how our brains work, the more equipped we are to make positive changes and create the kind of relationships we desire.
And that's the beauty of this deep dive. It's just the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and brain optimization. It's up to each individual to take this knowledge and apply it to their own lives, asking questions, seeking support, and embracing the incredible potential of their brain.
Absolutely. And remember, you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.